Okay, we are in out of classwork week 2. This is now Tuesday. Describe what happens when we add a number and its opposite. We call that the additive inverse. And what that means is when you have additive inverses, when you have a digit and its opposite, those are going to be one positive and one negative, as long as they have the same absolute value here. So we're going to say negative 20 or positive 25 and negative 25. The sum will be 0. Okay, so I need for you to put this in complete sentences. Okay, and I need for you to make sure that you include the words additive inverse, you include the word 0, and also include the word sum, because we're talking about adding sum. Okay, thank you so much. Moving on. If the temperature is negative 12 degrees and rises to 22 degrees, what is the difference in temperatures? There's a couple of different ways to look at this. We're going to go negative 12, and we need to find the difference between negative 12 and a positive 22. Okay, I'm going to do this a couple different ways. I'm going to start by putting this on a number line. So here is my number line. I have my 0. We're going to put our plus 22 to the right, because positive numbers fall to the right, and then we're going to put our negative 12 over here. Now I could count the number of spaces here and come up with a total of 34. Okay. That's one way. And I can look at what is the absolute value of 22 and the absolute value of 12. If I add those together, it will also give me a value of 34. So if I took absolute value here and absolute value here and I summed it together. Very important. Drawing pictures are extremely important when you're looking at these integer problems, because sometimes you need to look at the absolute value and other times you don't. Okay, now this is going to be a little bit different than I've taught you guys in class, because I've taught you strictly with the rules. But in this case, we're going to use a number line to count. I typically don't like number lines because, let's just face it, if you're trying to do a number like negative 2032, you're not actually going to draw out a number line with a negative 2032 places on it. So this is very good for basic understandings of integers, but at this point in our math understanding, you should be able to move on and just know the rules. So we're going to start here. This is a really, looks like a wonky number line because it looks like they're negative on both sides, but these are tiny little positives. I'm going to start with my negative 5. So again, this is my plus side, this is my minus side of the number line. I'm going to start at negative 5. And I'm going to add 4 places. Anytime I'm adding 4 places, I'm going to move to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer of negative 5 plus 4 is going to be negative 1. And I've shown that on the number line. Okay, second one, I'm going to start at negative 5. And I'm going to subtract 4. Subtraction moves this way. So I'm going to move 4 places to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. The answer is negative 9. Again, using number lines can make it much easier to comprehend what the answer is supposed to be. However, when you start dealing with larger numbers or you deal with fractions or decimals, it does make it a bit more complicated to do it on a number line, and it really will get to a point that it will make it impossible. And then using counters. Again, counters, this is where I'm going to just draw out my negatives. Again, great way to have a basic understanding of negatives and positives, but it's just not very practical. I have 5 negatives, so I'm going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 4 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4. And with counters, all I do is I cross them out. This makes a pair, this makes a pair, this makes a pair, this makes a pair. What am I left over? I'm left over with 1 negative. Same way here, I have 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I have 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a total of 9 negatives. If I were to count those up. Again, if you're dealing with a number that's in the thousands or the hundreds of thousands, you'd be spending an awful lot of time writing out little minuses and pluses. So this is good for basic understanding, but now that we're in 7th grade, we really need to move beyond to understand just how to do these using the rules.